Hi, my name is Pan Panajale from 1008 class. Today I'm gonna present about the biology project of disease. The disease that I choose is smallpox. Smallpox is the top one of the disease that really affect to our human society of all time. Smallpox is the deadly disease caused by the virus called variola virus. Smallpox is an infectious. It spreads from one person to another person, and this disease is unique in humans. Smallpox caused by the two viruses, the variola major and the variola minor. Variola is a virus that neither unicellular and multicellular. The life cycle of smallpox is similar to other types of virus. First, its three-folded variant penetrates to the cell membrane of the target cell. Then, the virus gets through the host membrane depending on its code by the plasma membrane. Those pox variants with a membrane outer coating can enter the host cell more easily. Once inside the shade, its outer coating and begin replicating. Its genome is made of DNA. The pox virus can copy itself in the cytoplasm. The pox virus generates protein and DNA copies, recombine into a functional variant, and then bud off from the host cell, destroying it. As a result, the cycle begins renewal again and go on to infect other cells. Variola virus can classify into two types, variola major and variola minor. Variola major is the most dangerous type of smallpox. Mortality rate is about 30% death, result from massive inflammatory response causing shock and multiply organ failure. Another type, variola minor. Variola minor result in symptoms that are similar to variola major but less damage than the variola major and got less intensive rash. Mortality rate is about 1%. The history of smallpox. Smallpox believed that have first infected to humans around 12,000 years ago. The first group that has infected are the earliest agricultural settlement. Then smallpox was discovered again in Egypt Empire around 3rd century BCE based on the mummy that had rash in their body and their face. Many historians guess that smallpox disease happened again in Athens in 430 BC and happened again in conflict of Antony Purge of AD 165 to 180, which killed most of citizens of Roman, around 1.5 million to 7 million people. The highlight conflict of smallpox in history. In 4th century, the earliest writer was writing about this disease appearing to China. In 6th century, increasing trade with China and Korea introduced smallpox into Japan. In 7th century, Arab spread smallpox into Africa, Spain, and Portugal. In 11th century, smallpox spread in Europe. In 15th century, Portuguese introduced smallpox into part of Western Africa, and in 16th century, European colony and the African slave trade import smallpox into Caribbean Sea and Central South America. In 17th century, Europe colony import smallpox into North America, and 18th century, British introduced smallpox into Australia. Edward Jenner was an English doctor that researched about this disease and created the first vaccine of smallpox. His research well known around the world. He observed that milkmaids who had catch cowpox did not infect smallpox, so his first experiment to test his theory by involved milkmaid. Her name is Sarah Nelmes and James Fields, the 6 years old of the Ghana gardener. Took cowpox shot on Nelmes' hand into Pip's arm. A month later, Jenner met Pips a lot to give him a virus, but Pips never developed a smallpox. More experiments later, finally in 1801, Jenner he discovered his first vaccine, and his first vaccine became widely accepted to the world and replaced the practice of variolation. The change in our knowledge and attitudes in the past of this disease is very dangerous and kill many people all time. That this disease don't have cure. Many people die by without any treatment and vaccine. It affects on our human society since before century. Some kingdom fall down because this disease, such as Roman Emperor. This disease easy to spread by person to other person, so it very dangerous to human at that time. But for today, we can cure this disease and treatment are much better than before. After Edward Jenner was discovered the vaccine of this disease, the treatment of this disease are developed over time. The number of infected and people who died because of this disease almost no more in the present. Infected rate and range 8. Variola minor got 1% of death rate and variola major got 30% about death rate. Between 65% to 80% of the survivors who survive from this disease are got marked with deep pitch scar on their face. Smallpox is estimated to have killed up people over 300 million people in the 20th century and over 500 million people in the last 100 years. Mostly infected are infected by their family, about 60% rate. In the age 5 to 9 year rate got 200 cases per 1,000 person. The lowest of the group rate is the age of 10 to 14 years. This group got 30 cases per 1,000 person, and the oldest age over 14 years got 180 cases per 1,000 person. For the transmission thing, the smallpox transmission by direct to person to other person. The transmission requires face-to-face contact. The virus can be transmission to air or when the infected people sneeze or talk. Indirectly from the infected person, sometimes virus can be spread through the ventilation system in a building. It's make virus spread to people that in the same building infected. Another thing, smallpox can also spread to the conflict with clothing and things that people using with each other. Although the risk of infected of these sorts are less than the two factors that I told before. The first symptoms of smallpox usually appear in 10 to 14 days after infected the virus. During the incubation period of 7 to 17 days, you look and feel healthy and can infect other people. Following the incubation, you might have some of these symptoms, include fever, overall discomfort, headache, severe fatigue, severe back pain, vomiting possibly. Smallpox can cause a severe rash over the whole body that can leave scar on your body and on your face. A few days later, the flat red spot appear first on your face, hand, and forearm, and then on trunk. Within a day or two, many of these lesions turn into small blisters filled with clear fluid, which then turn into pus. Scrap begin to form 8 to 9 days later and eventually fall off, leaving deep pit scar. Lesions also develop into mucous membrane of your nose and mouth and quickly turn into sores that break open. For the response and treatment, the history of smallpox needed unique medicine. It was one of the deadly diseases known to the human planet. The disease to have been eradicated by vaccination. Treatment of smallpox patent generally vaccination can prevent and lessen the severity of disease. Smallpox can be prevented by the smallpox vaccine. This is the information of the smallpox vaccine. Before contact with the virus, the vaccine can protect you from getting sick. For 3 days of being infected to the virus, the vaccine might protect you from getting the disease, but if you still get the disease, you might get much less sick than the people who not take the vaccine. With 4 to 7 days of being infected the virus, the vaccine likely gives you some protection from the disease. If you still get the disease, you might not get sick as the people who not take the medicine as well. The smallpox vaccine, introduced by Edward Jenner in 1795, it was the first successful vaccine to be developed. The global eradication trying to use the strategy of the vaccine to archive 18% of vaccine coverage in each country. In 1961, the bifurcated needle was developed as a more efficient and cost-effective to other people. The needle vaccine required only 1/4 of the amount of vaccine needed, with previous method was simpler to perform. Smallpox vaccine produced and successfully. So after that, the second generation of the smallpox vaccine has been created. It's similar to the version 1, but it's effective and cheaper than the version 1. Finally, the third generation of smallpox has represented it. This version had more alternative vaccine strains specific developed as safer vaccine at the end of the eradication phase by further passage in cell culture or animal. Second and third generation vaccine are produced using modern cell culture technology and current standard. In 1202, World Health Assembly that is WHN, give the vaccine to the whole world, to every region to have good quality of treatment. Immunity or partial immunity after smallpox vaccine may last up to the 1 years and 20 years with re-vaccine. If outbreak over occur, people who vaccine as a child would still likely receive a new vaccine after direct exposure to someone with the virus.